Today marks the end of National Foster Care Recognition Week. So we're taking a look at what it means to foster a child and provide them with the unconditional love and care that they need. I'm Audrey Williams. The show begins right now.
As a business leader, we're all highly dependent on the government for the effective performance of our operations. I would like to see processes that facilitate efficiency and effectiveness. We have agreed on a very powerful vision, Vision 2030 for Jamaica. And that says we would like Jamaica to be the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. If we're going to realize that vision, the public sector is a key catalyst.
Brought to you by the Transformation Implementation Unit.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Friday, February 19, 2021. Government has signaled its intent to spend $830.8 billion in the 2021-22 financial year. It comprises $776.57 billion for recurrent or housekeeping expenditures and $54.2 billion to fund capital development projects. While tabling the estimates of expenditure on Thursday, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke said the reduction was due to lower debt service costs and lower volume of loans to public bodies.
This budget, Madam Speaker, follows a year in which Jamaica experienced the worst economic contraction in its history, due to measures required to slow the spread of the coronavirus.
Of the $389.5 billion earmarked for the Ministry of Finance, $272.2 billion will go towards debt servicing. Other ministries receiving a sizable chunk of the budget include Education with $118.5 billion, Health and Wellness $89.2 billion, National Security $87.9 billion, and Economic Growth and Job Creation with $31 billion. The Finance Minister stressed that adequate provisions for COVID-19 vaccines and maintaining financial stability were among the key priorities for economic recovery.
Our task this year is to begin the economic recovery, and we aim for economic recovery to begin this upcoming fiscal year, and furthermore to begin this upcoming April to June quarter. Of course, we're not in control of all variables, but that certainly is the policy intent. Our budget, Madam Speaker, within the strictures with which we have to operate, and to the greatest extent possible, is aligned with this objective.
Still on the budget, $60 billion has been allocated for the Social and Economic Recovery and Vaccine SERVE program for Jamaica. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke says $33 billion of that figure will come from the Bank of Jamaica and go to the Consolidated Fund. He says this is as a result of the central bank's requirement under the BOJ Act to distribute dividends to the government whenever it makes a profit.
The government's policy of BOJ modernization is literally paying dividends, Madam Speaker, at a time when we need it most.
It comprises $10.5 billion to procure special resources for the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Based on the current prices and supply that the Ministry of Health has, we are making provisions for the government of Jamaica to be able to finance the procurement of and the completion of coronavirus vaccination for 2 million Jamaicans. Whether it's double dose or single dose, depending on the supplier.
Other areas of focus on the SERVE include a $31 billion infrastructure program to drive jobs and economic activities, improve productivity, and strengthen resilience. In addition, money is set aside to finance businesses affected by the pandemic, address rural farm roads and productivity incentives, and expand Wi-Fi and broadband accessibility. Social support will also be provided to the vulnerable and people who've fallen on hard times as a result of the pandemic. The UDC will receive funds to complete construction of the closed Harbour Beach Park and other activities, and $0.8 billion will be distributed among other ministries, departments, and agencies.
The Serve Jamaica program will provide the foundation for our social and economic recovery beginning in the upcoming fiscal year.
Meanwhile, government is proposing a one-year deferral of the implementation of the public sector compensation restructure. During a statement to the House of Representatives yesterday, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke said this was to allow the government more time to focus on facilitating the country's recovery efforts from the COVID-19 pandemic. In the interim, in addition to the annual increments, a very modest increase in wages has been programmed for the 2021-22 fiscal year.
So we're not coming and asking for a freeze. In addition to the increment, there'll be we are proposing a very modest increase that can be afforded within the context. And we will use this year, Madam Speaker, to fine-tune the parameters of the compensation restructure with the union movement so that we can move towards beginning implementation in the next financial year.
The finance minister said a thorough review and examination of the public sector compensation restructuring was completed, as promised in December last year. In other news, head of the Caribbean Technical Advisory Group on Immunization, Professor Peter Figueroa, is assuring Jamaicans that COVID-19 vaccines approved by the World Health Organization, WHO, are safe and highly effective. Speaking at a recent Ministry of Health press briefing, Professor Figueroa explained the makeup of the AstraZeneca vaccine expected in the country this month.
It uses what we call a vector. It is they take the shell of a virus, a common cold virus, an adenovirus, simply to get that into the body's system and into the immune system cells. And within that, there is a mimic of the spike protein, something just made that's similar to the spike protein that then induces in the human a response that helps to protect us against the coronavirus itself that causes the COVID disease.
Professor Figueroa is a member of an expert panel at the WHO that is examining vaccine safety. Stressing that the vaccines contain no harmful material, he says studies have shown very few cases of severe COVID-19 requiring hospitalization in persons who are vaccinated, with the only side effects of significance being a swollen arm, fever, headache, and tiredness, which usually go away within 24 hours. The Administrator General's Department, AGD, is encouraging Jamaican entertainers to have wills in place for easier estate administration after death. Deputy Administrator General at the AGD, Stacey Ann Carty, says the plea becomes heightened as the department has now established an intellectual property section to handle those particular matters.
We're appealing specifically to persons who are writers, producers, entertainers, as we're in this reggae month, where they focus on writing a will, taking all the steps to put their estate in order. They know the specific intricacies of their family life and their family dynamics, and how their beneficiaries will be put in a tailspin if things are not in order.
Mrs. Carty was speaking recently at a JIS think tank. The AGD is responsible for administering the estates of persons who have died without leaving a will, have left assets to administer, and have children under the age of 18 years. And finally, Entertainment Minister Olivia Grange says she's deeply saddened by the passing of veteran DJ Ewart Beckford, popularly known as U-Roy. U-Roy earned his crown as King of the Dancehall for the role he played in pioneering the art of toasting on sound system rhythms. Minister Grange adds that his Sturgov sound system launched the careers of many reggae stars, including Charlie Chaplin, Josie Wales, and Supercat. Ewart U-Roy Beckford, who was born in Jonestown, Kingston on September 21, 1942, is known for popular hits such as Wake the Town and Tell the People and Wear You to the Ball. He died in Jamaica on Wednesday, February 17. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Are you aware of how Jamaican adolescents use social media? What do they do online? What do they post? Do you know if they are being harassed? These are questions you should be asking yourself because it is your duty to keep your children safe online. Parents, here's what you need to do. Be active online and offline. Help your child to set up his or her online profile. Make sure you familiarize yourself with the different social media applications that they use and set some rules. Protect our nation's children and save them from cybercriminal attacks.
Foster care is a way of ensuring that children who have experienced loss, abuse, or neglect are given a second chance at a regular family life. If you believe that you would be a great fit at providing a stable home with unconditional love and care for a child, but don't know the steps to do so, then take a look.
Have you ever thought about fostering a child but not so sure about how you can do so? Well, today is your lucky day. Get your pen and paper ready as we take you through all you need to know about the foster care program in Jamaica.
So what is foster care all about? Foster care is a process that allows non-biological parents to provide children in state care with a stable environment which contributes to their overall development. How do you become a foster parent? You have to be a responsible adult in good legal standing between the ages of 25 and 65. Must have accommodation that the child can be comfortably housed, gainfully employed or have some source of income, willing to undergo medical examination, must have a police record, meaning you must provide a police record, not that you must have a record, and finally to agree to a home visit and assessments by the children's officers periodically as they supervise the child in placement.
And those are the basic steps you need to take to foster a child. I dare you to make a difference and foster a child who is in need of your helping hand today. For more information on foster parenting, visit any CPFSA office island-wide or call 876-948-284122.
First case we had was of 7 Indian nationals who were trafficked, and where they were found, they were living where the dogs were living. They were not fed, just given scraps. So those are just some real male stuff.
If you know of someone who is being trafficked, call the Counter-Terrorism and Organized Crime Arm of the Jamaica Constabulary Force at 876-967-5627 or 876-967-1389.
Up next, this feature will provide parents with the tools they need to become better versions of themselves and to guide their children on the right path.
I want you to first begin to look at, who am I? Who am I as a parent?
Future leaders of Jamaica.
Future Leaders of Jamaica started in 2013, and what we try to do is to level the playing field as it relates to opportunities from an educational standpoint by providing resources to our students from low-income families. Whatever the student need, we invest in that student to ensure that at the end of the day, we have a successful product coming out. We actually kicked off our first ever parenting seminar, and we want to make sure that the parents have the tools to be able to help guide them through life. We focus a lot on the parenting to help the parents to be a better you. Bulk of the agenda today, it was really around self-empowerment and self-improvement.
Did you or did you not know, and this is important to know, that human trafficking is a global crime? What we have found across the world, having spoken to global law enforcement, that social media, smartphones and the internet, on top of or under the umbrella of bad parenting, is the main driver here. Back in the day, pedophiles had to go to a school gate to get a victim. Where do you think the pedophiles are now? We rescued a girl from Port Maria in St. Mary recently who met love online. And she was told to meet the person at number 3 Mountain View Avenue in Kingston at a hotel. The person was flying in. It's right at the bumper Mountain View. We got her enough. We have across the world 16 ways in which a person can be trafficked. Organ harvesting is possibly of the dead. We can also harvest organs from live people. Debt bondage. This is where debt is either owed or believed to be owed. Child soldiers. Across the world, they are recruiting kids, and we're trying to get that in our law. When the gangsters get kids in, then we charge them for human trafficking. Forced begging. Just last year, we closed our first case in Jamaica of persons who forced others, youths they were, to go on the street in Spanish Town and beg at stoplights. The target age group are usually 14 to 21 years old. And the reason for 14 is because they are perceived to have a longer shelf life. The pedophiles are attracted to them. Did you know, or did you not know, that the average female in human trafficking gets raped 31 times per night? Some more, it's averaging out, some less. So human trafficking will continue if we don't stop it now.
An unhealthy person cannot raise a healthy one. And that's where I'd like to start. Whatever your flaws are, they must understand that as human beings, none of us are perfect. And so as you parent your children, you must be aware that you be human in front of them and say to them, if I've made a mistake, then I've made a mistake. If I have fallen short, then I've fallen short. A healthy human being knows when to be sorry and when to be emotionally intelligent. Allow your children to have the experience of having a problem and having to work through it. Mommy, you know that my friend and I stopped talk? Really? Open up yourself. What happened? Yeah? And allow, just sit there and listen. One of the most important things about counseling is not a counselor telling you what to do, is actually you reaching there by yourself. And another thing, parents, don't be afraid to play. Don't be afraid to play and laugh and teach your children that life is good, right? So, you know, you do a one lick and you run.
It was an amazing seminar. We had about 50 parents today. What's always important for us is to get a good mix. What I did see today, a number of male faces showing up. So it's good to see that the fathers are now stepping into their rightful roles.
It was very enlightening, also informative, and at the back end alarming to hear the statistics revealed by the head of CTAP, Mr. Berry, about human trafficking.
As it relates to the cell phone usage and social media, I would just try to be more knowledgeable of it. You know, I'm a parent of one, my daughter. I will have her teach me a little bit more, and at the same time, I'll inform her of the dangers of it as it relates to human trafficking and other dangers.
Going forward, we'll continue to have a parenting seminar, and we just have to figure out what the topics are going to be for next year, but we're just going to build on this foundation.
Practice good hygiene by washing your hands frequently using soap and water. Here's how you should do it while conserving water. Turn on the tap to wet your hands, then turn off the pipe. Lather your hands and the tap with soap. Turn on the tap and wash your hands, back, front, and in between fingers. Use some of the water to wash off the tap, then turn it off. Dry your hands with disposable hand towels. If you don't have running water, use a hand rub containing 62% or more alcohol. If hand sanitizers are not available, rubbing alcohol, Dettol, white rum, or household bleach will do the trick. And if all else fails, let hand washing and the handling of potable water be a two-person event. Each person will take turns pouring and washing hands with sitting water. Now is a good time to consider installing a tap on your containers to reduce the risk of water contamination. Faucets can be easily attached to drums, buckets, or 5-gallon water bottles. And to ensure that the outside of the containers are clean when recapping, disinfect it with hand rub containing alcohol that's 62% or more. The 5 R's of water conservation are also necessary to practice. Reduce water wastage by investing in water-saving devices. Reuse water at least twice before discarding. Replace leaking pipes, faucets, and other plumbing equipment. Recycle wastewater and use it for gardening, car washing, or cleaning of public spaces. And reclaim water through rainwater harvesting. We all must play our part to ensure there's water to combat the coronavirus and stave off prolonged drought.
Did you know that fostering a child and adoption requires 2 different processes? Children stay in foster care until they're placed back with their biological family or into a permanent adopted home. Adoption requires a full legal process. After this, all rights and care are granted to the adoptive parents. The Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA, outlines the full process for individuals who want to adopt rather than foster a child. Take a look.
The Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA, has taken steps to make the adoption process much easier. Joining me is Adoption Coordinator, Mrs. Maxine Bugelo, who will be giving us some information about the changes made. Thank you for coming, Mrs. Bugelo.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to go straight into it. What are the changes made?
Okay, before 2016, we had a 2-tier system. First, applicants were asked to complete a pre-adoption form and then submit that to us. Now that would normally take some time. So we reviewed the system and said that it would be best if maybe we erase that part of the process. So now what applicants have to do is that they go straight to our website and where they will find the adoption forms. The forms include the application form, the medical form, one for the child and the applicants, and the guidelines which outline all the information and all the required documents that need to be submitted with the application form.
Awesome. And what are the required documents?
The required documents are the birth certificates, marriage certificates if they are married, job letters and income statements, references from persons who know them, not a family member. And the references should not necessarily speak only to the person being a nice or a good person, but it should speak to how would they care for a child. That should be included, their capacity to care for a child. If the child is in school, we would need a child's last school report as well.
And when all of that is completed, what's the next step?
The next step would be submit all of those to the CPFSA. When it is here now, we would review to ensure that all documents are here. Now, if all the information is there, the application is reviewed, given a number, and assigned to a caseworker. And a letter would be sent to the applicant, informing them of this and who the person is. Once the caseworker get that application, that caseworker would now start to prepare appointments to interview both the applicants, the child, and whosoever, the birth parents, because the birth parents are also very important in the process.
And what if there are no birth parents?
Well, if there are no birth parents, we would have had death certificates for the parents if they have died. If they are nowhere around or cannot be located, there are avenues that we would have to take internally to ensure that we try our best to find them.
And once that's completed, what's next?
Once that is completed, the officers then would have to do a comprehensive report. And that report would have to be compiled and then submitted to the adoption board, because the adoption board is the only agency in Jamaica that can approve adoption at that level. So after the approval, it is submitted to the adoption board and approval is given, then it is now preparation for court. Because court is where it is finalized legally.
How long does that process usually last?
The entire process? We are at now 3 to 6 months, depending on if there are no challenges.
And once you get to court, then?
Once we get to court, court is held depending on the availability by the court. Some courts have set dates, while others will have to submit our documents and await their decision as to when we can come to court. Now, once the court has signed off on those documents, for adoption orders, it is the applicant's responsibility to collect those, and they will take a copy to the RGD, where they will apply for the new birth certificate for the adopted child.
And is there any cost associated with any of this process?
No, adoptions are free in Jamaica.
Is there anything else that Jamaica needs to know about the process?
We need adopters, prospective adopters, to understand that it is important that they submit all the documents, and it is also important that they are truthful in the stories that they give pertaining to how a child is placed in their care. Because what we find is that sometimes when we approach birth parents, they are not aware that this child is being adopted. They know that somebody is caring for their child, but that was not the arrangement that they adopted for. Persons generally who wish to adopt should love a child, should really want to take care of a child, because it's a lifelong investment. Persons, they should have proper accommodation for their child. They should be able to financially can afford to take care of that child. And they should be willing to accept that child as theirs. And that is very important, because we see sometimes that persons adopt for many different reasons, and this can affect the relationship of that child for the rest of their lives.
How can people reach out to you to find out or to just inquire about the adoption process?
Okay, we have an email address, adoption@childprotection.gov.jm, and our straight line to the unit is 922-1751.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Bugelo.
You're welcome.
And this marks the end of today's magazine. Join us again tomorrow. Same place, same time for more informative content. Also, follow us on all socials and visit our website at jis.gov to stay informed. I'm Audrey Williams. Take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.